Hi there. I'm so glad you're joining me for this last part of the program. This is an end of certificate project that Coursera and other learning platforms usually call a capstone. The capstone brings everything you've learned together. You'll have the opportunity to take all of your new knowledge and put it into practice with a data analytics case study. In this video, we'll talk more about what that entails and how it can help you stand out during a job search. Case studies are sort of like practice data analytics projects. When you're job hunting, you might be asked to do a case study after the pre-screen call or the first interview. The case study is a common way for employers to assess job skills and gain insight into how you approach common data-related challenges. Different employers might send you different kinds of case studies. For example, you might be asked to clean and analyze a dataset, offer a proposal around how to measure the success of a project, or figure out and define metrics of success for a specific product. Usually, there's a time limit for the case study you've been asked to do. For example, a potential employer might give you some sample data and project questions and ask you to create a presentation or memo with your recommendations in 24 to 48 hours. That time limit can be a little challenging, but the good news is your answer to the case study doesn't have to be perfect. What's important is that you show off your thought process so that the interviewers can understand how you approach the problem. You can use the data analysis process we've learned throughout this program to guide you. Let's check out an example and break down all of the parts. This case study has all of the information we'd need to perform this task. It starts here with the title and the industry focus, predicting employee attrition rate for human resources. It also includes a problem statement outlining what the overall goal is. In this case, they're asking for a deep dive into key data analytics concepts to predict the employee attrition rate in the organization and which factors influence an employee to leave the organization. So basically, this case study is interested in predicting the rate at which employees might leave the organization and why. There's some more specific goals in the next section. It's asking us to find the probability of an employee leaving the company over the next 5 years. That's pretty straightforward. But they're also interested in ways to improve employee retention. This next section is really key. The deliverables are what we'll actually give them once we've completed the case study. In this example, they're asking for a presentation outlining our findings and recommendations. Finally, they've included some sections about the data we'll use for this task. Here, it's a dataset that we can download. So now we know more about case studies and how they might be presented to us in a job application process. But people who are passionate about data analytics will sometimes do case studies on their own time and add them to a personal portfolio. A portfolio is a collection of case studies that can be shared with potential employers. Portfolios can be stored on public websites like GitHub, Kaggle, or Tableau, or on your blog. Your portfolio can also be linked in your resume. This will give you examples of how you approach data tasks in the past that you can talk about in your interview. These portfolios showcase your skills and help you stand out in job applications. On top of the case study, we'll talk about building your portfolio and how to share it. This will be a great building block that you can use to build up your resume. Coming up, we'll check out some great examples of case studies and portfolios that'll hopefully inspire you as you start your own. Google is a company that's built on data. It's all data-driven. And the idea behind it is that every person, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a marketer, a seller, or even you're working in admin, where you're handling logistics and paperwork and payrolls, everybody is dealing with data in some form or the other. We're trying to acknowledge the fact that in any occupation across the globe, across various industries, having a knack and understanding of data is going to be crucial for everyone. When you are in an interview, what I personally look for, or even my colleagues look for, is the way they think about this creatively. When people hear the word data analyst, they think about engineers or someone who is extremely technical, and it's all about working with data and numbers. But I implore people to rethink about that perception that being a data analyst is not being a scientist, but it's also being an artist. The entire world is your canvas, the way that you approach it, and even sometimes challenge the traditional norms of solving a problem. I think that seems to be very powerful, and it actually puts you on the edge as compared to other people when you're interviewing for such role. There's a misconception or a myth that when you're applying for a job, you should know all the right answers. You should answer every question that they ask correctly, but that's false. What every interviewer is looking for is how you think. What's your thought process? What is your way of looking at a certain problem, and how do you approach into solving those problems? When you express that, and when you talk a little bit more about how you think about in a certain perspective, why you think about it in a certain perspective, it speaks a lot about you as a person, and also what's your professional capability to be in that position. One of the fascinating things about being a data analyst is you are a storyteller. You look at the data, and every data point out there has a story to tell. If you are able to perfect that skill, you can tell some amazing stories. What people will remember is not just the data, but how you tell those stories to the people or to your audience. If you talk about the core essence of the story, that this is what the data is telling me, or this is what the data tells you to do, you become a lot more successful. And I guarantee you that you will progress in being a data analyst, and your career will prosper indefinitely. My name is Rishi, and I am the Global Analytics Skills Curriculum Manager. Welcome back. Earlier, we talked about what a case study was and why adding one to your portfolio could help you stand out in a job search. So, now let's talk about some best practices for building case studies and portfolios, and check out some great examples of other analysts' work. When it comes to case studies, there's a few important tips you'll want to keep in mind. First, make sure your case study answers the question being asked. Let's check out a sample case study for a company we'll call Data Partners Real Estate. They asked job applicants, how would you rate Data Partners Real Estate's resale performance in 2020? What's driving these trends, and what would your action plan be? The company gave job applicants a market data set including things like active listings, visits, resale contracts, price points, and geocodes. Applicants had a day to go through the data analysis process and share a proposal. Here's a presentation one applicant came up with. Slide 2 lays out the question. The job candidate has identified poor performance in a specific housing price band that the company could improve. Including a quick overview of their findings here helps keep the case study focused on the task at hand. On top of answering the question, you also want to make sure that you're communicating the steps you've taken and the assumptions you made about the data. One of the reasons potential employers are interested in case studies is because they show your thought process and problem-solving skills. So showing the steps you took to reach your conclusion can help them get a good idea of how you work. Here, we've got an explanation of the metrics they use to perform their analysis. And in each slide after this, they use the title to tell their story and explain the steps of their analysis. They state the overall market share of this company's resale contracts has remained steady. And they explain that this is the result of high growth in one area and losses in another. Then, they explain this gap and outline some potential causes. And in the speaker notes, they've added some key assumptions they've made. To wrap it all up, they've acted on the data by providing recommendations for the business to consider. Their metrics were clearly defined, their data findings were organized in a logical, step-by-step order, and they've made sure to explain any background information about their data that their audience may not know. In this case, the job candidate also shared documentation of their analysis, including their SQL queries and spreadsheets. This is a great example of how a case study can showcase an analyst's thought process. Now, any case study you complete during a job application usually needs to be kept private. But you can also complete case studies on your own time and add these to your personal portfolio. As we talked about earlier, your portfolio is a collection of case studies you want to show off. And there are some best practices you can use for creating your portfolio too. The best portfolios are personal, unique, and simple. You've learned different ways that you can post and share your portfolio, like on a blog, GitHub, or Kaggle. Let's explore some portfolios so we can understand what personal, unique, and simple really means. As you might recall, these examples were also featured in a reading, so feel free to go back and check them out yourself. Your portfolio is a chance to show people who you are, what you're interested in, and what's important to you. Here's an example portfolio. Right away, we can tell how personal this is from the title, Sharing My Cancer Story with Data Viz. This Data Viz showcases this analyst's health journey as they prepared for a marathon while also undergoing treatment for their cancer. It's a very personal and powerful story, and he talks more about this project in his blog post. But it's also showing off his personality in the Data Viz itself. Let's read some of these notes. Mom, if reading, send more cookies. Fitbit died, didn't care to charge it, 9 days. In addition to the personal story this data tells, we also get these insights into the analyst's personality. Making your portfolio personal doesn't mean the focus has to be completely on you, but it is an opportunity for other people to get to know you better. So it's good to add things to your portfolio that you care about, things that are interesting to you, and stuff you'd love to share. This will highlight your technical skill and how you approach technical problems too. Making your portfolio personal also helps make it unique. By highlighting the things you're interested in, you can stand out from the crowd. Let's check out another example. This is a Kaggle user's profile with some of the notebooks she's created. Each one of these is basically a case study that she's completed for her own enjoyment. She's got a few notebooks where she's worked with the Palmer Penguins data we used in R. But she's also got notebooks where she did an analysis on a video game she likes. Using common examples can be great practice and show off practical job skills, but adding some unique and interesting case studies to your portfolio make it cool and memorable. In general, you want to keep your portfolio pretty simple. Our goal is to highlight our skills as data analysts, so we don't want to distract anyone who's visiting our portfolio with unnecessary clutter. Here's an example of a portfolio on GitHub. This user's created a master list of R tutorials they created. It's simple and straightforward. There's a table of contents that leads to different pages to keep the portfolio landing page simple and easy to navigate. This doesn't mean this page is boring. They've added this fun cover art and talk about their own experiences with R here. But even with all that, we're not distracted by a messy web page. Finally, you want to make sure that your portfolio is relevant and presentable. If you know you're interested in a certain kind of data analyst position, you can tailor your portfolio to highlight those skills. Make sure you keep it up to date, ready for an employer to see, and most importantly, that you're proud of what you've put together. When it comes to case studies, you want to make sure that you're answering the question and communicating the steps you've taken. And as you build your portfolio, remember, keep it personal, unique, and simple. Now that we have some ideas about how to create great case studies and portfolios, you're ready to start working on your own. Coming up, we'll take our first step towards building our own case study. See you soon. Hello. Great to see you again. Now that we've checked out some example case studies and portfolios, it's time to start creating your own. Coming up, you'll do an activity that'll help you get started. But before that, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the different approaches you can use to start your project. There's two possible tracks you can use to frame out your case study and help you get started. In track 1, you'll be able to choose a business question similar to the kind that interviewers might ask. There are several different options for you to choose from with specific business tasks and different data sets for you to use. In track 2, you'll be asked to find a public data set to explore something you're personally interested in. This could be anything, from analyzing a video game you like to a study on a wildlife population you care about. This is the more flexible option, and you'll have more freedom to build something that's really personal to you. Depending on what you want to do with your case study, you might choose one over the other. For example, if you want to create a case study that you can use to demonstrate your job skills for future interviews, then track 1 might be more useful for you. But if you have something you're personally interested in that you'd like to explore more, track 2 can help you build a flexible portfolio piece. Or if you're interested in track 1 and 2, you can do both. Once you've decided on the track you're most interested in, you'll use the case study outline to help you start your project. The outline follows the phases of the data analysis lifecycle that we've been using throughout this program. You'll complete each phase, from asking the right questions to preparing, processing, and analyzing your data until you finally build your presentation and share it in your portfolio. Each phase will have key questions and activities to help guide you through the process. And if you ever need to review something, you can always go back to any part of the program to help you. As a quick reminder, the data you'll be working with for this project will be public and open source. This data is great for demonstrating your skills as a data analyst, but it's essential to avoid plagiarism by citing your sources. Public, open source data can be easily searched, and we don't want to pass it off as our own work. Plagiarism can have serious negative consequences, legally and personally. The beauty of our work as data analysts is that we can share and collaborate with each other. So let's remember to give credit to our sources. I hope you're excited about starting your case study. I'm really excited to see what you put together. After this, you'll be able to start working on the outline. Then we've got some other activities that'll help guide you. After that, we'll talk about sharing your portfolio. Good luck. Congratulations! You've officially completed your personal case study and started building your portfolio. That's an amazing accomplishment, and it's all because of the hard work you've put into practicing your data analyst skills. If you really enjoyed this process, feel free to try a different track or choose another business scenario. The guide you use to finish your first case study can be used over and over again. And the more you use it, the more you'll find yourself improving in some unexpected ways. Plus, adding more case studies to your portfolio will make it even stronger. Coming up, we'll change gears a little. Now that you've got a portfolio with a completed case study, we can start talking about how to discuss your portfolio with recruiters and some ways you can highlight your skills. This is where we start really putting the portfolio to good use, and you'll have a lot of opportunities to practice this. Great job, and I'll see you next time. Hi there. Welcome back. Finishing the case study is a big step, but we still need to create a portfolio and share our analysis online. You have a lot of options when it comes to your own online portfolio. So let's talk about where you can post your case study and how to make that decision. When you're thinking about where you want to share your portfolio, there's two questions that can help you decide. First, what platforms align with your interests and passions? And second, where do you want to spend more time after this program? You have a few options. You could use Kaggle, GitHub, a blog, or Tableau to share your work. Now let's talk about what each of these have to offer. Kaggle has a broad data science community you could join. It hosts a lot of competitions for users to join in and offers all kinds of learning opportunities. This is a great option if you enjoy connecting with other data analysts. GitHub's primarily used for programming languages like R or Python. It has a more technical setup than other platforms, but it's a great place to share your code and the how behind your analysis with other users. And if you want to learn from other data analysts' work, GitHub's a great place to be. Blog platforms like Medium, WordPress, and Google Sites are personalized and ownable. Blogs aren't as code-focused as Kaggle and GitHub, so you'll have to store your code somewhere else. And there might be a few extra steps you'll have to take to display code on blogs. But you can show off your expertise, write about your process in your own voice, and show thought leadership in your field. Finally, you might choose Tableau to host your work. You've already got some experience with Tableau from our work here. It's a great option if you're focused on the data viz side of things. Plus, you can create interactive dashboards using Tableau's tools that are easily shareable. Choosing where to host your portfolio is an important decision, but hopefully now you have some ideas about how each platform could be useful. And you might end up using multiple platforms over time to fit your specific needs. The important thing is to remember the two questions we talked about earlier. What platforms align with your interests and passion? And where do you want to spend more time after this program? Creating your online platform to share is one of the final steps in this Capstone project. Coming up, we've got a few activities to help walk you through that process. Then we'll meet back here to start talking about your next steps. Welcome back. Now that you've successfully created your first case study and added it to your portfolio, it's time to talk about using that portfolio to wow potential employers during your next job search. In this video, we'll learn about developing an elevator pitch. Having the portfolio in your resume will help you stand out, but being able to use your portfolio to effectively highlight your skills will make it so much more powerful. When you're discussing the case studies in your portfolio, you'll want to develop an elevator pitch to give interviewers a quick, high-level understanding of your work. Basically, an elevator pitch is just a short statement describing an idea or concept. It should be just a couple of sentences, short enough that you could explain it to someone in an elevator. It's always a good idea to prep your elevator pitch beforehand. Then once the interviewers have that high-level understanding of your case study, you can give concrete examples of your process and how you solved problems in your data analysis before. For example, if an interviewer asks you to talk about how you approach data cleaning, you might highlight your case study to outline how you've cleaned data before. After giving them a quick explanation of the case study, you can describe your process and show them how you successfully completed the analysis. Let's check out our example, Data Partners Real Estate case study, and brainstorm an elevator pitch for it. Earlier, we talked about how the executive summary in this presentation focused on answering the business question. This summary can help us develop our elevator pitch too. We just need to condense this into a couple of sentences. You can also think back to the business tasks you based your case study on to help you decide what context is most important. For example, you could say, in this case study, I used real estate company data to evaluate resale performance, determine trends, and theorize what was causing them. I was then able to develop an action plan based on those findings. Then, if they're interested in discussing these findings in more detail, you can. This is where you can share more about how you reached your conclusion and your recommendations for this company. Or maybe the elevator pitch was all you needed to start explaining your process with the person conducting this interview. The best way to showcase your skills effectively is to remember your audience and what they're interested in. Potential employers and recruiters want to get to know your thought process and your approach to problem solving. This means that when you're discussing the case studies in your portfolio, it is useful to focus on your process and not just your results. Let's think back to our example. The interviewer asked us to talk about our approach to cleaning data. They probably don't need to know the exact functions we performed on our dataset, but they might be interested in knowing how we chose the right tools and what steps we took to make sure our data was clean and useful. This gives them more insight to our cleaning process and how we think about data cleaning in general. Your case studies are a powerful tool that you can use to enhance your resume, but you can also draw on them to help you outline your thought process and how you perform your analysis. Developing an elevator pitch and using case studies to highlight your skills as a data analyst to potential employers and recruiters can help you discuss your work more effectively with interviewers. Just like everything else we've learned, this is something that gets easier the more you practice. It's a great idea to practice beforehand. Try your elevator pitch out on a friend, or practice talking through your process with a trusted colleague. You'll get it down pat in no time. Coming up, you'll have the chance to practice sharing your portfolio in interviews. See you soon.
Hi, Jordan. How are you?
Hi, Sally. Nice to meet you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, perfectly.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to meet with me.
Of course. I'm excited to meet with you, but it's a little nerve-wracking.
Well, nothing to be nervous about. This will just be an opportunity for me to get to know you and for you to understand a little bit more about this junior data analyst role and what it entails. So why don't we start off? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I originally thought I was going to be a teacher, but life had other plans for me. I decided it wasn't what I really wanted to do with my life. So I took some time off and worked in retail for a bit. Then someone told me about the Google's data analytics certificate program. And I decided to give it a try. It was something different. It turns out I really liked the stuff and I was pretty good at it. So I decided to apply for the junior analyst role.
And what specifically drew you to data analytics?
I really like that it's like centered around digging into things and learning more about them and improving them. It's like working with puzzles, but when you finish the puzzle, you're helping companies make smarter business decisions. I mean, that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I love puzzles too. And speaking of which, not all puzzles have a direct solution, and sometimes things can fall apart. Is there a time when you've dealt with a really difficult issue that you had to take ownership of?
Definitely. When I was a teacher, we frequently had issues with budgeting for things like school supplies and after school programs. We always seemed to run out of money because we were working with one budget for everything. So I rallied the other teachers together and we created budgets for each category, and that worked a lot better.
Oh, I can imagine that was really frustrating.
For sure. We had to figure it out all ourselves because no one was going to fix it for us. And since no one was initiating it, I decided to take it on as a side project.
Well, I know you mentioned working with other teachers and in retail in the past. So for this role, there will be times when you're working with other team members and times when you're just by yourself. Do you have a preference, or what is your preferred working style?
I have experience working in both situations. I love working with people and collaborating, just like I did for the budgeting project and in retail. But I'm also really good at working independently and getting things done. After all, I was a teacher, so I created my own teaching plans and managed my own classroom. So I just try to keep an open mind and bring people in as needed.
Very good. And someone like you who is transitioning from a completely different field to being a data analyst, how would you adapt to that change if hired?
Well, though they're in very different fields, I think a lot of my prior experience would translate well in analytics. My ability as a teacher to sift through a lot of information and distill it down to what's important and easily understandable, that would be very beneficial as a data analyst when I'm explaining data and numbers to someone who might not like math. Working in retail made me really good at communication, and managing classrooms and difficult customers both made me really good at people management too. So I think these skills will translate really well as a data analyst.
Okay, great. And One last question. How do you stay motivated when you're working on a project?
Ooh, good question. So for me, it's the people I work with. I love getting to know the people I work with because that's what's going to motivate me to put in that extra time and that extra effort. It's because I know my work means something to someone I know. So that's what motivates me and keeps me going.
Excellent. Well, that's all the questions that I had. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I do. So what does a typical work week look like in this role?
So, good question. In this role, you would be working mainly with our technology teams and a couple of data scientists. We do have a stand up meeting every Monday to go over important tasks, align on goals, and check everyone's progress. This company is really about open communication. So you'd be brought into different meetings and you'll find that you're constantly talking to your colleagues about all manner of things, especially if there's a deadline coming up.
That's good to hear. Open communication is always important. Can you tell me a little bit more about the day to day?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say your job would mostly involve analyzing large data sets like administrative data, insurance, billing claims, basically a lot of different information. It's heavily dependent on the specific project.
Great, thank you. I like that there's variety depending on the project. Okay, one more question. What's your favorite part about working for this company?
Sometimes a difficult question, but I definitely love our team. I think it's a really smart and dedicated group of people who really love what they do. We're all very collaborative and respectful of each other, which is especially important when you're dealing with stressful situations or a problem that comes up out of nowhere. And I also really love how comfortable I am communicating with everyone, even stakeholders, and that really makes life so much easier.
That's awesome. I think it's really important for a work environment to be approachable.
Yeah, for sure. And when you realize everyone pretty much wants the same end goal, there's really no reason not to be cooperative and communicative.
I agree. Um, I know I said that was my last question, but I have one more. Can I ask what the next steps in this process will look like?
Yeah, for sure. That's where I was going to go next, anyways. So thank you for that question. We will be contacting candidates within the week and emailing a case study to solve. And we'll set up a second interview for you to present that. Obviously, we'll be looking for how you work, what skills you utilize, and just your technical abilities throughout this assignment. All of the details will be in the email that I send out. So please keep an eye out for that. And I look forward to our next meeting. Sound good?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jordan. It was really great talking with you, and I appreciate you going through the details of the job.
Of course. Thank you so much for your time, Sally. It was great getting to know you. I'll be in touch and I look forward to speaking soon.
It was great meeting you as well. Have a great week.
You too. Bye. All right, well, let's get right into it. We sent you a case study of a hypothetical scenario where a school needs to improve its communication with parents. And we asked for basically your top insights into how this can be solved. Can you take me through your thought process?
Sure. I just want to say this is such a great scenario. I really enjoyed working with it. And it's something I imagine a lot of schools have to deal with. So this is what I came up with. So here's the presentation that I put together, bridging the communication gap between teachers and parents for Creekside Middle School. So the background problem was that there was sporadic or non-existent communication between teachers and parents. So the solution that we're trying to come up with is to help the middle school design an app for parents to stay updated on school news and their children's classes and activities. But for our analytical goals, we had two. So the first one is we need to look into the why. Why do we want to create the app in the first place? And why are we interested in keeping parents informed? Well, we want to quantify the impact of doing that parental involvement on student test scores. And then we looked into the how. So once we decided we're going to create the app, what are parents interested in? What do they want to learn more about? So if we dig into the why first, this is what we found. We found that there was a downward trend where students' test scores have been falling since 2004. And that's a problem. And the reason is because parental involvement also drops in 2004. Despite there being a 14 percentage point increase if there are parents involved versus when parents are not involved. So basically, we think the drop in the student test scores, because it correlates so well with parental involvement, that the lack of parental involvement is the reason why test scores are dropping. And so that's why it's really important for us to increase parental involvement to improve our student test scores. So that's the why. Next, we want to go into the how. What are the things that the parents would want to know about? So this data comes from a survey in which we asked students what kind of activities that they are involved in. And most student activities can be grouped into the following three categories: sports, academics, and extracurricular clubs. And what's interesting is if we looked at the news alerts that's sent out, these are the things that the parents are notified about currently, and broke it down from 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders, we found that the 7th graders received the least attention. They had the fewest number of news alerts published. So what that means, these two data points, is that for number one, for the categories, we should create 3 tabs, or a way in which we can easily group activities into 3 buckets: the academic, sports, and extracurricular activities. And secondly, because 7th graders were the ones who had the least amount of attention, we would have the biggest amount of impact if we prioritize targeting them during our test launch. So in summary, based on the analysis that we did, the why we want to create an app in the first place is because parental involvement is highly correlated with higher test scores. And the how to best design this app. And when we build this app, we want to make sure the app has 3 categories or 3 tabs for each activity category. And we should prioritize a version 1 launch for parents of 7th graders. So here's what a timeline of events could look like. The first 2 weeks for analysis, and then we're presenting the analysis now, and then a good chunk of time where we can build the app. And during the testing and iteration, this is where we want to focus on the 7th graders, get their feedback, and then finally we can launch and open it up to all other grades. So that's how we can build V1 or version 1 of the app. But we always want to improve, right? So further explorations or ways in which we can improve for version 2 of the app is we can look at additional questions like, what is the impact of having multiple children enrolled in the same school? Does that help improve test scores even further? What's the impact of having one caretaker involved versus multiple? So, and thank you very much. That's all I had.
Well, great work, Sally. You've really covered a lot of ground for a short amount of time. And based on what you've examined, you understood the objective and captured who the client is and what they want, and used data and visuals that supported your hypothesis. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you would recommend as next steps?
For sure. My recommendations for next steps is twofold. One, we want to share these insights with the person or the team building the app, so that they can build an app for parents to easily move between those 3 tabs, the 3 activity categories. And 2, once we enter the testing and iteration phase, we should prioritize building for 7th graders for the biggest impact.
Great. Well done. I really appreciate your time on this. I'll take a further look into your presentation and my notes, and I'll reach out soon with my final thoughts.
Thanks, Jordan. I look forward to it.
Okay, Sally, can you please tell me about a time when you dealt with an unexpected challenge at work?
Of course. In retail, all sorts of problems can show up out of nowhere, which I'm sure is the case for a lot of other industries as well. But there's this one time I was working in a store as a sales clerk, and an extremely unhappy customer came in. She was really unhappy about a recent purchase she made, an exercise bike, and demanded someone go to her car, retrieve the bike, and give her a refund. I explained that I'd be happy to provide a refund, but I wanted to learn more about what happened so we could potentially salvage the situation. So I asked her if there was something wrong with the bike. And she told me it was difficult for her to clip into and out of the bike with her cycling shoes. She was upset because she spent so much money on a bike that couldn't do what all exercise bikes should be able to do. But upon further examination, turns out she was wearing the wrong size shoes.
Oh, yes, that is a problem.
Absolutely. We got her a new pair of the right size shoes, and to double check, I walked her over to one of our display bikes, the same model that she purchased. And I had her go on the bike to try it out. But she was unable to clip in and out of the bike as we expected. And then I noticed the issue. So the clips themselves were incompatible with the shoes. So this was a manufacturing issue rather than a user error. So I apologized to the customer, informed my manager, then called the bike manufacturer to let them know the defect right away. So they issued a recall immediately. And as for the customer, I offered her two options. One, we can take the bike back and issue her a refund immediately. But the problem with this is she would be without a bike, which is what she originally wanted. So number two, the other option was to offer her a voucher for any bike in the store, as well as a free pair of cycling shoes that we ensured would fit into the bike clips. So after discussing these possible solutions with both my manager and the customer, she chose the second option. And the result was a happy customer this time who, despite coming into our store really angry, left the store extremely satisfied. And my manager was also very pleased because a happy customer is a customer who's going to return.
Wow. And what went through your thought process as you were trying to solve this problem?
Well, first I had to assess what the actual problem was. Did the customer simply not like the product, or was there a deeper issue that had a possible solution? After figuring out what her issue was with the shoes, I had to figure out the why. Why did her shoes not fit into something they were designed to fit? And after that was solved, it was a matter of coming up with solutions that would make the customer happy.
And is that typical for how you usually approach problems?
Yep, pretty much. Obviously, every problem is a little different, so I adjust my approach accordingly. Generally, I just like to use empathy whenever possible to understand the context, then find the root cause and map out a couple solutions to choose from.
Well, that's really great work, Sally. You use both critical thinking and problem solving abilities, which is what you need to constantly succeed as a data analyst. Well, Sally, we've been very impressed with you throughout this process. Although you have limited experience working as a data analyst, I'm really confident in your abilities, and I think your past experience coupled with your current certificate will make you an excellent junior data analyst. So with that being said, I would like to officially offer you a position with us.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Jordan. That's fantastic news.
Well, as we established earlier, this role has a starting salary of $50,000. And of course, you would be getting healthcare benefits, stock options in the company, paid time off, all of that as part of our hiring package.
Oh, that sounds great. Can I take some time and think about the offer?
Of course. I'm going to send you everything so you can take a more comprehensive look, and feel free to email or call me with any questions.
Amazing. Thanks so much for the offer, Jordan. I promise to get back to you soon with my answer.
Thanks, Sally, and I look forward to your response.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi, Sally. It's great to hear from you. Have you given more thought to our offer?
Yes, I have. I know this is an entry-level position, but I believe based on transferable past experience that I'll be bringing to the table, that my compensation should be higher than 50K.
I understand. And can you remind me what your initial ask was?
I asked for a base salary between 58 to 60K.
So with the salary that you're looking for, it is a little bit higher than the average. Can you tell me more about what skills and experience you feel support that range?
I understand. And I'd love for us to agree on a competitive salary based on the skills and experience I'd be bringing in. In terms of my experience, I'd be particularly strong in the communications department after managing difficult customers and rowdy kids. Furthermore, due to my diverse background, I'd be able to translate complicated topics easily into understandable snippets for others who might not be as numbers-based as I am. Those are the soft skills that I'd be bringing in. In terms of hard skills, I earned the data analytics certificate where I picked up the technical tools of the trade like SQL and data visualization. So that's why I believe my experience qualifies me to having valuable and transferable skills that I can bring to the table, which is more than what an entry level analyst with absolutely no experience would be bringing in.
Well, I feel like that's impressive. And like I said, we think you'd be a great fit for this team. So we would like to meet you in the middle and offer you 56,000 with obvious room for growth.
I appreciate this offer and your willingness to be flexible. That's fair. So I'd like to officially accept the role of junior data analyst with your company.
Wonderful. Well, I will be sending you all the proper paperwork and get you started onboarding as soon as possible, okay? And you'll be an excellent addition, Sally. We're really glad to have you join us.
Thank you, Jordan, and I'm super excited to get started.
Hey, I'm Nathan. I'm a principal data analyst in the Trust and Safety organization at Google. At Google, I'm a member of an organization called VetNet, which is an employee resource group for veterans and Googlers who want to support veterans. And one of my favorite ways that we give back every year is through an annual resume review workshop. In the resume workshop, either virtually or in person, we have veterans or veteran spouses, come into the office, or we meet via video chat, and we go through the resume and really focus on impactful things they've done and how to make their accomplishments jump off the page and show really how awesome they are. Veterans in particular can have some unique challenges when it comes to translating their military experience to a really effective civilian resume. The first is removing military-specific jargon. The second is being willing to claim correct credit for the accomplishments that you did, because a lot of times veterans are going to always say that it was completely the team that did it. And then third is coming up with really good measurement of the impact of the activities that they did that they're showcasing in the resume. Just as service members have to communicate really clearly, work well as a team, and really exercise really good attention to detail, that's also the case when you're working as a data analyst. You can't know everything, so it's important to be able to work with cross-functional stakeholders in a very collaborative setting. And the best analysis in the world is worthless if you can't clearly communicate the recommendations and influence the stakeholders to adopt those. And of course, if you overlook some important details, that could also derail your analysis and your credibility in the eyes of those stakeholders. Attention to detail is critical. It's important to get some training. Of course, the data analyst certificate is a great set of training, but also just other courses, either on tools that seem interesting to you. It's important to think about what sorts of problems you find the most interesting, and then find data for those problems and do some analysis on your own. And that's a really high impact way of being able to get some great experience on your own that you can then talk about during interviews and even informal chats with people in your network. Why veterans should consider a career in data analysis is that they already have a strong foundation of being able to be really persistent while also remaining really humble. And that's super important as a data analyst, because if your ego is out of control, you're going to have big blind spots that lead you to make mistakes in your analysis. One of the best pieces of advice that I still think of to this day is that it's better to get speeding tickets than parking tickets. So what this especially means as a data analyst is sometimes you have to jump into situations that you're not totally comfortable, and you need to learn your way out of it and collaborate your way out of it.
Great job! You finished the Capstone project for the program. This is a huge achievement. Take a moment to celebrate. Not only did you persevere through this whole program, but you went the extra step and put your knowledge and skills to work to create something real and really cool. The case study and portfolio shows just how far you've come, and that hard work pays off now. You've got a great example of your work that you can show to potential employers that tells them just how skilled you are. So let me just say again, congratulations. This brings us to the end of the program. But it's just the beginning of your journey in data analytics. No matter what comes next, you'll have the skills you need to be an amazing data analyst. I can't wait to see what you do. Thank you again for joining me for the Capstone project. Goodbye, and good luck as you take your next step as a data analyst.
Congratulations on finishing the program. You should feel so proud of yourself for the work that you put in and the time and effort that it took.
There was a lot of information to get through, a lot of work to do, and you did it all.
Good job finishing up the work.
I know it might not have always seemed easy, but you made it to the end.
You are well on your way to the next step in your career as a data analyst.
That was amazing. You're on your way.
I'm so excited to see what you make of your career in data analytics.
This is a huge achievement.
Oh my gosh, you did it!
You've done a fantastic job.
Well done.
You crushed it.
What an awesome job.
Way to go.
Amazing.
Congrats!
Congrats.
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Analysts are amazing. And you are now an amazing analyst. You're joining the ranks of folks who explore data to make their world a better place. I am so excited to see what you'll do with this.